provides you, our viewers, the opportunity to call in and ask us any questions that you have on any aspect of English law. On this show, I'm able to cover a vast, diverse range of matters ranging from immigration law, family law, criminal law. Whatever your legal questions are, please do get in touch. Two ways to get in touch. You can ring on the landline number which appears at the bottom of the screen. And as always, a popular way of getting in touch is to send us a message on the mobile number which also appears at the bottom of the screen. Now, in terms of the questions coming in, the queries coming in, what I do find is the vast majority of questions that come in, I am able to deal with them live on air. A lot of questions coming in on WhatsApp, fantastic, keep us sending those in, and I can deal with them live on air. Now, if it transpires that your matter is quite urgent, or if it transpires that I need to look at documents, your matter is quite complex, that's not a problem. I can speak to you off air and have that more thorough discussion with you off air as well. But the vast majority of questions coming in, I am able to deal with them live whilst the show is going on. Now, mashallah, we've had a number of questions coming in on that mobile number. Please do continue to send those questions in. Let's look at some of the questions that have come in today. Now, first question that's come in is from Brother Wasim. Interesting question, something that comes up regularly at the moment in practice. And Brother Wasim says this. Let's have a look at his question. We came to the United Kingdom on a healthcare visa with my wife and my kids in February 2024. The certificate of sponsorship was issued by a healthcare company. But up until today, since February 2024, I haven't been given a job. Our visa is valid for 3 years. 8 months have gone by. What should I now do? It doesn't look like I am going to be offered any employment. Now, to be quite honest, in practice, this is very, very common. There are a lot of people who come to the United Kingdom on a work visa, mainly on healthcare visas, and what they've found once they've come to the United Kingdom is that work is not available at all. They've approached the company that's sponsoring them. They've done the training in a lot of circumstances. They've actually completed the training. The criminal records checks have been done. Everything that needs to be done for them to be able to do work here as a healthcare worker has been done. But despite all that, in the same way that Brother Wasim is telling us, there's been no work that's been forthcoming. They've been waiting at home, waiting for work to turn up, but nothing has really materialized. Now, what can you do in that situation? Now, the reality is this, that one is you do nothing and carry on. The problem you're going to face, Brother Wasim, is that once you've completed your 5 years in the United Kingdom, if the Home Office was to check your employment records, they would be able to tell that you've not actually done any work. So the problem is that for the time being, you might be okay. But when it comes to applying for permanent stay, and if the Home Office was to check your records, like I think they will, the likelihood is your application for indefinite leave will not be successful. So that's the problem that you face. Your application, if you do nothing, you carry on as it is, then after 5 years, if you were to apply for indefinite leave, your application would be refused. There are people here who have no choice but to actually just sit it out and see what happens. Another option which is open to you, which is I think the best option, but it's not always something that can easily be achieved, which is to find another sponsor, another employer who will sponsor you, which will allow you to change your visa from being sponsored by the current care company to another proper employer with a sponsor license. So that's really the second option that you have. A lot of people don't have that luxury. It's difficult to find a sponsor who's willing to sponsor. A lot of people have then just simply decided to sit it out and see what happens. If that's the case, you carry on, you've completed 5 years and you do not qualify for indefinite leave to remain, then the only real option that you're going to have if you're unable to change employers really is to see whether you can make an application based on the length of your residence in the UK if you have children. There is a rule whereby if you've been living in the United Kingdom with your children for 7 years, based on your children, you might be able to make an application under the immigration rules. That luxury obviously is not open to everybody because a lot of people in this situation won't have children. So it really only applies if you've got children and the children are under the age of 18 when you submit your application and they've completed 7 years. You effectively have to survive somehow for 7 years before you submit the application based on the children. And if that application is successful, you don't get indefinite leave straight away. You get a 2.5-year visa, which is extended until you complete 10 years of legal residence in the United Kingdom. But unfortunately, that is the option that we have. Our options are very much limited indeed. Now, that's hopefully answers that question. The next question we've got is from Brother Muhammad. And it's an interesting query relating to somebody who is being sponsored to come to the United Kingdom as a minister of religion. And Brother Muhammad's question is in relation to criminal records checks. And he's asking, what kind of criminal record checks need to be completed if somebody is coming to the United Kingdom as a minister of religion or a religious teacher? Well, generally speaking, there are certain occupations under which these checks have to be carried out. Typically, they are education-related jobs. There are healthcare jobs. They do require, generally speaking, criminal records checks to be made. And on the Home Office website, there's a whole list of different occupations under which, if you're applying, a criminal records check would have to be carried out. And that criminal record check is carried out for each of the countries you've lived in over the last 10 years. Now, if you've actually only lived in a country for a short duration of time, then you don't need to carry out a check at that country. But where you have lived for a considerable amount of time, more than 12 months, you would need to carry out or have a criminal record checks done from that country. So it could be that you've lived in a particular place, you've grown up somewhere, then you've recently moved somewhere else for work. You've got to look at where you've been in the last 10 years. It might well be that you will need a criminal records check from both countries. So that is something that you would need to bear in mind. But thank you very much for that question. Just on that note, before we take a break, most skilled worker applications don't require most skilled worker applications don't require criminal records checks, but mainly teaching jobs, healthcare jobs, those kind of professions do require checks to be carried out. But thank you very much for that question. That takes us to our first break. We'll be back in the next couple of minutes. See you then.
Sainsbury's? Are we made of money?
Hey Sainsbury's, explain it, will you?
Well, the same effort we put into our baking
goes into matching prices.
Remarkable. We've actually come in under budget.
Get it now?
Already got it.
Sainsbury's. Good food for all of us.
Our generation's risk of illnesses, like measles and whooping cough, is rising.
If we're not vaccinated,
We're not protected.
and could get seriously ill. Risking lifelong disabilities.
Are your child's vaccines up to date?
I'm in. Now, you ready for a good day?
He was a scientific hypothesis. She was a clinical study. And the future breakthrough that could cure her is closer than ever. With our research, we can keep saving lives like hers. Donate now to turn science fiction into reality.
Sainsbury's? Are we made of money?
Hey Sainsbury's, explain it, will you?
Well, the same effort we put into our baking
Goes into matching prices.
Remarkable. We've actually come in under budget.
Get it now?
Already got it.
Sainsbury's. Good food for all of us.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the free legal advice show on British Muslim TV. This is the second part to the show. As always, if you want to speak to me live, please ring on the landline number which appears at the bottom of the screen. And if you want to send us a message with any queries that you have, please send that on the mobile number which appears at the bottom of the screen. MashaAllah, we always have numerous questions coming in and they've been fed through to me here onto my phone, and I'm going through the questions as they come in. So please do continue to send your questions in. Now, let's look at the next question that's come in, and that's to do with a visitor visa. And that is from Brother Saeed, and he wants some guidance in relation to I'll just read. Basically, I would like to discuss visiting visa for my mum who's in Pakistan. Please could you advise me in relation to what is required? Okay, now, the best way to look at visitor visas is what needs to be done from the United Kingdom, and then separately speaking, what needs to be done from abroad. The bit in terms of the UK is relatively straightforward. There has to be a sponsor, ideally a close family member. Normally, if there are brothers here, sons here, they're ideal to be sponsors from their relative who are abroad. And they are basically showing that they've got enough income, they've got enough savings in order to be able to sponsor their relatives from abroad. Now, the kind of documents that they would need to show is mainly financial documents and accommodation documents. So in terms of financial documents, what you would have to show is that the sponsor has sufficient income, so that they've got, if they're employed, which is normally the case, you'd normally show 3 months of wage slips, 3 months of bank statements, and ideally you'd show that they've got a level of savings in their bank account. Normally about £2,500 of savings would be sufficient. So that's how they would show that financially they're able to sponsor their relative from abroad. So they've got enough money there, they've got an income coming in, and they've also got savings there that they can rely on. So that's the income financial aspect of it. Secondly, they have to show that they have accommodation available for the relative as well. And then in terms of accommodation, you'd normally show proof that you own the property, proof that you're renting the property. You'd explain how many rooms there are, who lives at the property. Normally, you demonstrate that there is sufficient accommodation available for them when they come to the United Kingdom. Now, if the accommodation isn't owned by the main sponsor, it could well be that it's owned by another relative, like a parent. That's not a problem. The parent would do a joint sponsorship declaration explaining that as far as they're concerned, they will be providing the accommodation and the main sponsor is going to be looking after them financially. So that's the finances sorted out, and then separately we've got the accommodation sorted out as well. So that's how what a UK sponsor would do. The UK sponsor would show their ability to financially sponsor the visit and to provide accommodation. So, Brother Saeed, it may well be that that is going to be your job. You're going to be the sponsor for your mother, and that is what you as a sponsor, you're going to have to provide. Your passport copy, your 3 months wage slips, 3 months bank statements, proof of the accommodation that you own or another family member owns, an explanation that there's sufficient space for your mother to come and live at that property with you being the main sponsor. So that's relatively straightforward. I think the difficulty is really over how the person who's coming from abroad, the visitor, is able to demonstrate that they will come to the UK for a visit and then they will go back. So the main issue is, will they go back or not? And that's where the main problems arise. And when assessing whether somebody will go back or not, what the Home Office tends to do is to look at what kind of ties does that person have with their home country. So, Brother Saeed, in this situation, you're sponsoring your mother to come to the United Kingdom. The Home Office will want to look at what kind of ties does your mother have with her home country, wherever that is, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, wherever it is. Now, how do you demonstrate somebody's ties to their home country? It's really what will make them go back. The starting point always, unfortunately, is that the Home Office will look at your mother's financial situation. Now, that's not the sole factor, but that is in practice one of the most important things that the Home Office will look at. Financially, what is your situation? Their mindset is, and I think this is wrong, financially, if you're well off and you can demonstrate it, it's more likely that they will grant the visa. Whereas financially, if you're not that well off, if you don't have income, if you don't have assets, then their view tends to be that it's more likely that you won't go back. So really, the starting point is you are demonstrating, or your mother is demonstrating, that she lives in comfortable circumstances in her home country. Now, comfortable circumstances, well off, what are they looking at? Well, they're looking at the source of income that the applicant and her maybe husband, wife has. Now, in your case, mother's case, if mother, daddy's working, you'd have to demonstrate their income by way of wage slips and bank statements. If they're not working, but they are self-employed, you'd need strong evidence of self-employment. You'd need strong evidence of the profits that's been made. If they've got rental income, you need evidence of that. If they've got pension income, you need to show evidence of that. You need to show the source of the income. You need to show their bank statements with that money coming in. You can't have any random sums of money coming into the bank account either, because the Home Office will then say, or the immigration officer will say, we can't trust this bank statement. There's money coming in which has no explanation whatsoever. So the starting point is, as far as the visitor is concerned, what is their financial situation? What is their income? Can you demonstrate it? That's one factor that the Home Office looks at, and it is, I have to say, one of the most important factors. The other thing that the Home Office will look at is somebody's family ties to their home country. So, for example, if your mother is coming to the United Kingdom, but your father is going to stay behind, that's a strong tie that you can say, which will make mother go back. If there are children in your home country, for example, children under the age of 18 that mother has to look after, that again is a strong family tie with one's home country, something that will make one go back. So they're normally the two very important points you need to demonstrate: your financial circumstances and your family circumstances. These are the things which will make mother go back to her home country. Now, there are other points that you can also put in addition to finances, in addition to family. It could be that mother has travelled to the UK before, travelled to other European countries, other Western countries, for example, Australia, Canada, US, that's always a plus positive factor. And that helps if you are able to demonstrate mothers travel to other countries such as that helps. Another point you could put forward to the immigration officer is, for example, if this is a case of mother coming to the United Kingdom, but father has already been to the United Kingdom, you can put a copy of his passport in with the entry and exit stamps for the UK to demonstrate that in terms of complying with UK immigration rules, coming, leaving the country, going back, your family is a compliant family. So that's something that can be demonstrated. One of the other things is that you normally try and explain, and this is something that the sponsor does, is the purpose of the visit. Now, if there's a special occasion, for example, there's a wedding, or for example, somebody is graduating, etc. So there may well be an occasion that the person from abroad wants to attend for. If that's the case, you would demonstrate birth of a child, wedding, etc. You would demonstrate that by way of paperwork as well. So if you stand back a bit and look at the whole picture, what we're trying to demonstrate is this. Look, this is the reason for travel. I've got a sponsor who's going to look after me financially, who's going to provide me with accommodation, so I am not going to be a burden on the state. And look at my circumstances. I'm going to go back because financially my situation is strong. I have family back home that I need to return to. I've travelled extensively. I've got family members who've been to the UK and gone back. That's the kind of picture that you're kind of trying to draw in order to convince the immigration officer that mother should be granted a visitor visa. But Brother Saeed, I hope that answers your question. Jazakallah for that. Now let's look at the next question that's coming. And this is a question from Brother Shahid relating to divorce. And what Brother Shahid says is that me and my wife have agreed that we will divorce. There are no children, there's no finance issues. Could you please explain the process where both parties are agreed upon the divorce? Now, it's one of those things where it's unfortunate, it does happen, but if parties are going to get divorced, it is always helpful if the parties can agree about the divorce. So, for example, when the application is submitted, whether you submit it, Shahid, or whether your wife submits it, when it is issued by the court, and if you issue, your wife will be informed. If your wife issues, you will be informed of the court proceedings. It always helps if the parties are agreed upon the divorce, because it then means that the divorce application will go through.
Sainsbury's? Are we made of money?
Hey Sainsbury's, explain it, will you?
Well, the same effort we put into our baking
Goes into matching prices.
Remarkable. We've actually come in under budget.
Get it now?
Already got it.
Sainsbury's. Good food for all of us.
Our generation's risk of illnesses, like measles and whooping cough, is rising.
If we're not vaccinated,
We're not protected.
and could get seriously ill, risking lifelong disabilities.
Are your child's vaccines up to date?
I'm in. Now, you ready for a good day?
He was a scientific hypothesis. She was a clinical study. And the future breakthrough that could cure her is closer than ever. With our research, we can keep saving lives like hers. Donate now to turn science fiction into reality.
Sainsbury's? Are we made of money?
Hey Sainsbury's, explain it, will you?
Well, the same effort we put into our baking
Goes into matching prices.
Remarkable. We've actually come in under budget.
Get it now?
Already got it.
Sainsbury's. Good food for all of us.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to the Free Legal Advice Show. Just before the break, we were looking at a question relating to divorce, and I was explaining that the easiest way to approach it in a simple divorce, where there are no children involved, where there are no finances involved, the easiest way to approach this would be to agree between the parties that you wish to get divorced. If you've agreed with the divorce process, then it's going to go more smoothly, because you're going to be able to, one of the parties is going to be able to issue the divorce proceedings, and once the proceedings are issued and the proceedings are served on the other party, what will happen is that they will respond. They won't ignore the court proceedings. The biggest problem with divorces, even straightforward divorces where there are no children involved, where there are no financial issues involved, the problem generally is that divorce proceedings are issued and the other, the partner, the ex-partner, doesn't respond. And that causes significant delays in the divorce proceedings. So I always say to clients that, look, if you are in this unfortunate situation where you are going to divorce, then agree things as much as possible. And if you can agree that, look, one party is going to issue proceedings and the other party will respond promptly, that's always helpful. Obviously, that's a relatively simple matter to agree. There are more complicated issues involved when it comes to divorces. For example, if there are financial issues, that obviously takes up a lot of time. If there are issues relating to children and contact, that obviously takes a considerable amount of time as well. But in terms of the actual divorce, if the parties can agree that they are prepared to make the process as smooth as possible, when one will issue the proceedings, the other one will respond, that's going to make it easy. Now, even in a more simple divorce where everything's agreed, even then it's going to take around 6 to 7 months for the process to be completed. So it's not going to be quick, even in a fairly simple divorce. Where you have a situation where the other side isn't responding, it isn't then unusual for that time frame to go from 6-7 months to 12 months. So that's the best thing. Agree who's going to start the proceedings, and the other side, the other partner, should respond to the divorce proceedings as soon as possible. And it's a process that you follow. You can actually, in simpler cases, actually do the divorce proceedings, issue them online, and the whole process is actually online, a reasonably smooth process. But thank you very much indeed for that question. Now, the next question is from Sister Uzma. And Sister Uzma's question is an interesting one. It relates to an application for nationality for her son. And what Sister Uzma is saying is that son has been in the United Kingdom for 10 years. and wants to apply for British nationality, born here, lived here for 10 years. And Sister Uzma's question is quite specific. Assuming the son is entitled to apply for British nationality, what kind of documentation do you need to submit in relation to that? Well, as far as the documentation is concerned, what you have to look at first of all is the child's nationality that you're looking at making is based on the child's own circumstances as such. Children can make different types of nationality applications. This one, Sister Uzma, you've said, is based on your child having been born in the United Kingdom and having lived in the United Kingdom for 10 years. So in that situation, one of the key things is for the child to demonstrate that the child has lived in the United Kingdom for 10 years after being born here. So obviously there'll be a birth certificate showing that the child was born in the United Kingdom. Normally then, in terms of proof of residence, you would normally put in, if you have it, the child's red book. If you can get medical records, that's quite helpful. That shows the child's been attending the doctor's surgery on a regular basis. And then from the age of 4 or 5, once the child starts reception or school, then you can get a letter from the school which will confirm the dates that the child has attended reception class, nursery, school, whatever it is. So what you're doing is building up evidence as to a child's birth and residence in the United Kingdom. So as I said, this is an application, what you're talking about, it's based on a child being born in the United Kingdom and having lived in the United Kingdom for 10 years. So evidence of birth, which is the birth certificate, and evidence of residence for child, which is normally the red book, which is normally medical records, and the letter from the school confirming attendance at school. So that's what you're submitting as proof of the child's birth and residence in the United Kingdom. Because this is an application, like you've said, based on the child's birth and residence in the United Kingdom for 10 years. But thank you very much indeed for that question. The next question that's come in is from, just looking at the question, Adi. And Adi's question is to do with asylum. What Adi is asking is as follows, and he's asking a question on behalf of his sister. And he says, my sister applied for asylum, went to the screening interview a few days ago. Can you please explain the process from now on? How long will it take before she can expect a decision on her asylum? Now, we don't know at the moment, unfortunately, what sister's nationality is, what type of case she has submitted. So it's a bit difficult to tell at this moment in time how long the application is likely to take. But I can give you some general guidelines. Certain very straightforward cases can be decided very quickly within the space of around 6 months. However, the vast majority of cases, certainly the more complicated ones from countries such as Afghanistan, Syria, etc., they do seem to be taking considerably longer to be decided. Certainly there's a bit of a backlog in terms of cases, so there are cases which are taking many years to be decided as well. So a lot depends on the country of nationality and the type of case it is. There are cases which in my experience, have been concluded in the space of 6 months. And certainly the newer cases which have been submitted, they seem to be determined relatively quickly. But then there are other applications which are taking considerably longer to be determined as well. So it just depends really on the type of case it is. The next question we've got is from Brother Farhan. His question is in relation to when somebody can apply for indefinite leave to remain. And his question is, my brother's wife and daughter, their visas expire in January 2025. They came to the United Kingdom in October 19, on the 28th of October 2019. Now, when is the earliest time that they can apply for indefinite leave to remain? So the visa finishes in January 2025. However, they came to the United Kingdom on the 28th of October 2019. So the starting point is, in this situation, you don't normally have to wait for your visa to expire before applying for indefinite leave to remain. The earliest you can apply is 28 days before you complete your 5 years in the United Kingdom. So somebody who came to the United Kingdom on 28th of October 2019 would complete the 5 years less 28 days on the 1st of October 2024. So that's the earliest date that the person can apply, and we've obviously passed that date already. So they can apply at this stage for indefinite leave to remain. However, they don't have to. They can, if they want, carry on living, working here, and apply even a day before the visa expires. In fact, you can actually apply on the last day when your visa expires as well. So, in terms of indefinite leave to remain, generally for the benefit of our viewers, you can apply 28 days before your 5 years are completed. Or, if you want, sometimes you have to wait because your documents aren't ready. Your financial documents may not be ready. So, you financially may not be in a position to pay for the fees, etc. You can, in that situation, wait till the very end. In fact, you can apply on the last day before your visa expires as well. So that is the situation that we have at the moment. So can apply now, or you can wait until a day before the visa expiry date. So there you go. But thank you very much for that question. We're going to a short break. Inshallah, we'll be back in the next couple of minutes. So please do continue to send your questions in. We'll be back in the next couple of minutes. See you then.
Sainsbury's? Are we made of money?
Hey Sainsbury's, explain it, will you?
Well, the same effort we put into our baking
Goes into matching prices.
Remarkable. We've actually come in under budget.
Get it now?
Already got it.
Sainsbury's. Good food for all of us.
Our generation's risk of illnesses, like measles and whooping cough, is rising.
If we're not vaccinated,
We're not protected.
and could get seriously ill. Risking lifelong disabilities.
Are your child's vaccines up to date?
I'm in. Now, you ready for a good day?
He was a scientific hypothesis. She was a clinical study. And the future breakthrough that could cure her is closer than ever. With our research, we can keep saving lives like hers. Donate now to turn science fiction into reality.
Sainsbury's? Are we made of money?
Hey Sainsbury's, explain it, will you?
Well, the same effort we put into our baking
Goes into matching prices.
Remarkable. We've actually come in under budget.
Get it now?
Already got it.
Sainsbury's. Good food for all of us.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to the free legal advice show on British Muslim TV. I'm your host Ilyas Bulbulia. To speak to me live on air, please ring on the landline number which appears at the bottom of the screen. And as always, a popular way of getting in touch is to send a message on the mobile number which also appears at the bottom of the screen. Inshallah, we've had a number of questions coming in. Let's go to our next question that's come in. And the next question that's come in is from Sister Rahila, and her question is in relation to a sponsor license. And again, this is a very popular topic, sponsor licenses. And her question is a general one. And she says, if my brother was to be sponsored by an employer to come to the United Kingdom, what kind of salary would they need to offer him? I'm currently talking to an employer about a potential job offer for my brother. Skilled worker visas is a very popular topic at the moment. A lot of people are applying for skilled worker visas at the moment. The difficulty now is that the salary requirement has been considerably increased, which is causing a problem. The salary requirement used to be around 26,500 and lower for those who were younger, etc. What's happened now is that the general salary that's payable for skilled workers has gone up to £38,700. So it's a considerable jump. There are circumstances in which a lower salary can be offered, and where somebody is under the age of 26, or they are from abroad but they've graduated from a UK university, or they've successfully completed their university course, they're here as a student, then it is possible to offer a lower salary. So instead of having to be offered a salary of 38,700, which is problematic sometimes for employers, they can offer a salary of £31,000. So that's, Sister Rahila, what you're generally speaking looking at in terms of salaries. It is difficult. I mean, it is generally speaking 38,700 goes down to about £31,000. Now, if you fall within the category of very, very limited healthcare categories such as carers, etc., care workers, I think senior care workers, they can be offered a much lower salary of just £23,000. So you've got different salary brackets. 38,700 for somebody who is, none of the exceptions apply to them. 31,000 if you're a new entrant, young, etc. £23,000, slightly higher than that if you're coming as a care worker, etc. So it does really depend. There's no one answer that I can give. It just it does actually just depend on the person, the brother's circumstances who wants to come to the United Kingdom. But, you know, the salary requirements have gone up. That does actually amount to, in a lot of situations, a bit of a deterrent for people. So that's something that you know, you need to take into account when you're sponsoring somebody to come to the United Kingdom as a skilled worker. Now, let's look at some of the other questions that's coming in. Question from Brother Zahir relating to nationality, and Zahir is asking in relation to his wife. Says, Assalamu alaikum. What kind of documentation do I need in order to apply for nationality for my wife? She's been in the United Kingdom and does have permanent leave to remain for the last 10 years or so. Now, there are certain requirements which need to be fulfilled when you apply for British nationality. One is, generally speaking, you should have indefinite leave to remain in the United Kingdom. You must have lived in the UK for 5 years unless you're married to a British citizen, in which case, if you've lived in the UK legally for 3 years, that's sufficient as well. So there are certain residence requirements that you need to fulfill. Based on what you've said, it looks like the residence requirement is fulfilled. So there's no problem on that front. There is also the next sort of major issue when somebody is applying for nationality is that you need to meet the English language knowledge of life in the UK requirement. So that normally means that you have to pass an English test at B1 level, and you also have to pass the life in the UK test, which shows your knowledge of life in the United Kingdom. So we do tend to find that somebody who got indefinite leave to remain a long time ago won't have done these two tests. So the B1 test in English and the life in the UK test. If you've just obtained your indefinite leave to remain recently, you're going to have these tests already. So one is having indefinite leave to remain. There's a residence requirement, and the English requirement, the life in the UK knowledge requirement are sort of the main factors. In addition to that, generally in practice it's not an issue, but you do have to look at your absences from the UK. The absence limit is, generally speaking, quite generous. You can be absent for around, in the last 5 years, you can be absent for up to about 480 days. In the last year before you submit the application, you can be absent for about a year. So the absence limit, generally speaking, is quite generous. That doesn't really cause a problem as such. So that's something that you can bear in mind as well. That, there is quite a good absence limit there. There is an absence limit there, generally not a problem, but you need to factor that in as well. Criminality, in most cases, it's not an issue, but again, that is something that you do have to look at, where somebody has got criminal convictions. That is something that you do need to consider, and I'm just looking at some of the requirements here. What you do need to bear in mind is sometimes people have motoring convictions. They've not been dealt with as a fixed penalty, but that's actually, it's a matter that's gone to court. The court's issued a fine. That can be problematic, because what it can do is, because it's a fine that's been issued by the court, it can, in certain circumstances, then prevent you from applying for British nationality from 3 years from when the fine is issued. So that is something that you need to take into account. But generally speaking, Brother Zahid, that's the kind of issues that you need to look at. Right, let's just run through some of the outstanding questions that have come in. Question that's come in from Brother Tufail, and Brother Tufail's situation is this. He says he's applied for an extension of his visa. When he's applied for the extension, he has submitted a standard application. Now he wants to travel very quickly to Pakistan because mum is unwell, can he apply for a priority application now? So he's got a standard application ongoing, needs to go to Pakistan quickly because mum's unwell. Can he basically upgrade the application to a priority application? But Tufel, you should have been really more careful when you submitted the initial application. But look, if you've submitted a standard application and you do want to apply on a priority basis, you can do that now, but you must submit another application. It isn't possible to pay an extra fee and upgrade your application from standard to priority. You'd have to submit a completely new application and then ask for the fees to be refunded. I mean, that's the only way you can actually get your application considered under priority, under fast track. And you can use, in these situations, you have to pay an extra £1,000, and hopefully that should do it. Hopefully you should be able to get your application considered under priority, and the caseworker should hopefully refund the fees that have been paid in respect of the first standard application that you've submitted. So hope that answers that question. Now the next question that's come in is from Umair, and Umair's application or Umair's question relates to asylum. Again, we've had a number of questions relating to asylum, and again it's a question relating to procedure and to do with the length of time it takes for asylum applications to be determined. Let me run through procedure very quickly. When you submit an asylum application, you normally attend a screening interview. That's a relatively short, quick interview where basic details are taken from you. And once that's done, the next step normally is that you are then normally asked to complete a questionnaire, and the questionnaire goes into a bit of detail about your claim. So after the screening interview, you're likely to get a questionnaire that needs to be completed, which is fine. Once you've completed your questionnaire, what you're then going to be asked to do is attend a more substantive interview. When you attend the substantive interview, normally it's going to be relatively long. It could be for approximately 3-4 hours, where they ask you very detailed questions relating to your claim. Once that's happened, you can even at that stage submit supporting documents, and once that's done, the Home Office will then make a decision. The time frame, again, difficult to tell. It could be anything from a few months to much, much longer. But thank you very much for all your questions. That brings us to the end of the show. Inshallah, we'll be back next week at the same